Breaking tonight, global tensions escalate as the United States issues a diplomatic ultimatum to Iran amid ongoing nuclear negotiations.
What we are about to disclose represents one of the most sophisticated cartel infiltration operations ever uncovered on American soil. This is not a border problem. This is not a drug problem. This is a systemic political takeover orchestrated from inside our own institutions. Those words, delivered at a closed-door federal briefing in Washington, D.C., on a Tuesday morning, set fire to every intelligence desk in the country. The numbers alone would make your blood run cold. Over 14 tons of narcotics seized. More than 2.1 million fentanyl pills recovered from a single underground distribution hub. 47 shell companies spanning 9 states. 312 compromised officials, from patrol officers to courtroom judges to a sitting state governor. And buried inside the encrypted servers pulled from a fortified basement in the Arizona desert, a file stamped with a single code name, Operation Meridian Eclipse. This was not corruption. This was architecture. And if you think you have heard the worst of it, stay with me. Because what comes next is darker. It started the way these things always start. In the dead of night, when the world was sleeping and the wolves were working. 4:17 a.m. Phoenix, Arizona. The temperature had dropped to 49 degrees, unusual for mid-autumn, and a thin ribbon of fog clung to the pavement along the warehouse district south of Interstate 10. The streets were silent. Not peaceful silent. The kind of silent that happens when even the stray dogs know something is wrong. 12 blocks of commercial storage units, auto body shops, and shuttered restaurants stretched along a corridor the DEA had been watching for 19 months. On the surface, it looked like any other neglected industrial zone in a sprawling desert city. Underneath, it was a fortress. The Sinaloa cartel had turned this forgotten stretch of asphalt into one of the most productive narcotic staging grounds west of the Mississippi River. FBI hostage rescue team operators moved first. 2 six-man elements approached from the north, dressed in black, night vision goggles casting a faint green halo around their helmets. Behind them, DEA tactical units stacked on the southern perimeter. ICE Homeland Security investigations agents held the eastern exits. SWAT teams from 3 surrounding counties sealed every road within a half-mile radius. No one was getting out. At 4:19, the first flashbang shattered the loading dock door of a building listed on county records as Sonoran Freight Solutions. The concussion wave rattled windows 2 blocks away. Agents poured through the breach like water through a cracked dam. Inside, they found no freight. They found 600 pounds of methamphetamine packed in industrial drums labeled as pool chemicals. They found 73 kilograms of cocaine wrapped in cellophane and stacked floor to ceiling behind a false wall. They found a back room with 3 men hunched over counting machines, sorting cash into vacuum-sealed bricks. One of them bolted for a fire exit carrying a black duffel bag. He made it 11 feet before an IC agent put him on the concrete. Simultaneously, 3 miles east, a second strike team hit a residential property in a quiet subdivision. The house had a swimming pool, a 2-car garage, and a prayer room converted into a communications hub with encrypted satellite phones and a server rack running 24 hours a day. 4 cartel members were detained. 2 were armed. 1 carried a badge from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Auxiliary Unit. 2 more targets fell within minutes. A massage parlor near Tempe that served as a front for human trafficking, where agents found 9 women locked in rooms with deadbolts on the outside. A taqueria in Mesa whose basement concealed an entrance to a tunnel extending 400 yards south toward a drainage canal. The tunnel walls were reinforced with rebar and plywood. It had lighting, ventilation, and rail tracks for moving product. But the discovery that stopped every agent in their tracks came at 4:47 a.m. from the Sonoran Freight Building. Behind a steel plate welded to the floor of a storage closet, a tactical team found a descending staircase leading to a subterranean room. Inside sat 4 sealed metal cases. When the bomb squad cleared them and pried them open, they did not find drugs. They found hard drives. Dozens of them, military-grade encrypted, each one labeled with a sequence of numbers and a single word, Meridian. By 6 a.m., those drives were on a chartered flight to Quantico, Virginia. The FBI Cyber Forensics Division occupies a floor of a building that most people will never see and most agents will never visit. The lighting is cold. The air hums with the frequency of processor fans running without pause. On any given day, the analysts here are sifting through terabytes of intercepted data from ongoing investigations around the world. But on this particular morning, every resource was redirected to a single task. The encryption on the Meridian drives was layered. Military specification AES 256 wrapped inside custom obfuscation protocols that took the team 7 hours to crack. When they finally broke through, the lead analyst sat back in her chair and said nothing for a full minute. She did not need to. The screen said everything. What sprawled across the monitors was a network diagram so vast it looked like a constellation map. Hundreds of nodes. Thousands of connections. Shell companies in Delaware, Nevada, Wyoming, and New Mexico. Ghost corporations registered in Panama and the Cayman Islands. A sham charity called the Desert Horizon Foundation that had funneled over $90 million through donations earmarked for migrant assistance programs. A trucking logistics firm called Apex Corridor Transport that operated 300 refrigerated trailers across the Southwest, every single one of them capable of carrying concealed narcotics compartments welded into the floor. The money moved in circles designed to make forensic accountants weep. Revenue from methamphetamine sales in Phoenix was laundered through a chain of laundromats and quick service restaurants in Tucson. That money was wired to an offshore holding company in Belize, which then invested in commercial real estate in Scottsdale, generating legitimate rental income that was donated to the Desert Horizon Foundation, which paid salaries to operatives listed as community outreach coordinators. The cycle was self-sustaining, self-cleaning, and nearly invisible. But the most devastating discovery was a single digital signature embedded in every authorization file for the network's logistics operations. That signature belonged to a man named Governor Raymond Caldwell. Fictitious on no public watch list, subject of no prior investigation, and the sitting governor of Arizona. According to the Meridian files, Caldwell had not merely accepted bribes. He had designed the architecture of the operation himself. He had used his authority to rezone industrial districts for cartel staging. He had appointed a state transportation director who ensured that way stations along key interstate corridors were taken offline for scheduled maintenance exactly when Sinaloa convoys were moving north. He had pressured county sheriffs to thin border patrol coverage along specific stretches of the southern boundary during windows that aligned precisely with tunnel operations and migrant smuggling corridors. This was not negligence. This was not passive complicity. This was command-level collusion with a foreign criminal empire. Governor Raymond Caldwell had turned Arizona into a narcotic superhighway and a human trafficking corridor, and he had done it with the deliberate precision of a military strategist. And the files showed one more thing. Meridian Eclipse was not just a drug operation. It was a political project. Caldwell had been positioning cartel-funded candidates in city councils, judicial appointments, and law enforcement leadership across 7 counties. He was not just running drugs. He was building a shadow government. If you think the federal response was measured, think again. 5 a.m. The following Thursday. Joint Operations Command Center, Luke Air Force Base, outside Phoenix. The room was enormous, built to coordinate aerial combat missions, now repurposed for something that felt eerily similar. A digital map covered the far wall, glowing with 47 red markers pulsing across Arizona, New Mexico, southern Nevada, and the California border region. Each marker represented a confirmed Meridian Eclipse node. The operation was designated Federal Sweep Meridian. Over 1,400 federal agents had been mobilized. FBI, DEA, ICE, DHS, U.S. Marshals, ATF. 86 SWAT teams staged across 4 states. 6 Black Hawk helicopters idled on the tarmac outside. 2 U.S. Army armored vehicles had been positioned near the border for contingency. An E-3 Sentry AWACS aircraft circled at 30,000 feet, providing real-time communications relay. And hovering at the edge of operational awareness, a pair of F-15 fighter jets patrolled the southern Arizona airspace, a show of federal authority that made it abundantly clear this was not a routine drug bust. This was the full weight of the United States government descending on a criminal empire that had tried to become the state itself. At 5:12 a.m., the order was given. 47 targets. Simultaneous breach. In Tucson, agents stormed a cartel superlab hidden inside an abandoned copper processing plant. The facility was producing fentanyl pills at a rate of 200,000 per week. Chemical precursors imported from China were stored in barrels marked as industrial solvents. 3 chemists were arrested. One tried to destroy a laptop by throwing it into a vat of acid. An agent caught it midair. In Scottsdale, a 12,000-square-foot mansion belonging to a man listed as a retired investment consultant was breached at 5:14. The consultant was a Sinaloa logistics commander. Inside the house, agents found $14 million in cash hidden inside the walls, a weapons cache including military-grade rifles, and a panic room containing encrypted communications equipment linked directly to cartel leadership in Culiacan. Near Nogales, a joint FBI-C team descended into a tunnel system that extended nearly a mile beneath the border. The tunnel was the most sophisticated ever discovered in Arizona. It had reinforced concrete walls, electric rail transport, and a ventilation system powered by a generator buried 30 feet underground. Agents seized over 3 tons of narcotics from inside the tunnel, including heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine packed for distribution to 12 American cities. In Flagstaff, a seemingly ordinary accounting firm was revealed to be the financial nerve center for the entire northern distribution network. Servers containing transaction records for over $400 million in laundered money were seized. The firm's managing partner, a woman who served on the board of 2 local charities, was arrested in her bathrobe at 5:21 a.m. In the desert west of Yuma, a convoy of 4 18-wheelers was intercepted by a combined DEA and Border Patrol task force. The trailers contained hidden compartments holding a combined 800 kilograms of cocaine and over 500,000 fentanyl pills. The drivers carried forged Department of Transportation credentials that had been authorized through the State Transportation Office, Caldwell's office. By noon, over 300 arrests had been made. The Sinaloa cartel's Arizona infrastructure had taken more damage in 7 hours than it had in the previous decade. But the deepest wound was still being opened. Investigators working through the seized servers and communication logs began to assemble a picture that made seasoned federal agents physically ill. The corruption inside law enforcement was not incidental. It was structural. 109 law enforcement officers across Arizona had been receiving payments from the Meridian Eclipse network. 53 local police officers, 22 county sheriff's deputies, 14 state troopers, 11 border patrol agents, 6 assistant district attorneys, and 3 sitting judges. The payments were disguised as consulting fees, real estate referral bonuses, and charitable donations processed through the Desert Horizon Foundation. In exchange, these officers and officials provided services that were breathtaking in their precision. Patrol routes near cartel staging areas were altered to create blind spots during delivery windows. Raid schedules were leaked 48 hours in advance, giving cartel operatives time to relocate product and personnel. Arrest warrants for known cartel figures were delayed by sympathetic judges, sometimes for months. Border checkpoint staffing was reduced during periods that aligned exactly with tunnel operations and migrant smuggling runs. One honest DEA agent, a 15-year veteran who had spent months wondering why his operations kept coming up empty, sat in a debriefing room and stared at the wall. When asked for his statement, he said 5 words: "They were playing us all." Federal agents moved swiftly. Senior sergeants, deputy chiefs, and a deputy state attorney general were arrested in coordinated operations across Phoenix, Tucson, and Flagstaff. Each one was escorted out in handcuffs. Some went quietly. Others protested. One deputy chief, a man with 23 years on the force and a commendation wall in his office, tried to destroy his phone by smashing it against his desk. The data had already been mirrored remotely. What investigators were looking at was not just a corrupt police department. It was a parallel enforcement system. A second invisible command structure layered on top of the legitimate one, taking orders not from the people of Arizona but from the Sinaloa cartel and from Governor Raymond Caldwell himself. The badge had been hollowed out and repurposed as a cartel instrument. A senior FBI official, speaking on background, said the system would need to be rebuilt from the ground up. Every hire, every promotion, every transfer in the affected departments would be reviewed. It would take years. But there was no alternative. Trust, once destroyed this completely, cannot be patched. It must be reconstructed from nothing. And then came the final revelation, the one that elevated Meridian Eclipse from a regional scandal to a national security crisis. As analysts mapped the full reach of the network, they discovered that Arizona was not the endpoint. It was the hub. Distribution routes extended into California through agricultural trucking contractors that moved product concealed inside produce shipments. Routes pushed north into Nevada through a network of gas stations and motels along Interstate 15 that served as way stations. Routes ran east into New Mexico and Texas through a logistics chain disguised as a green energy equipment transport company that had received fraudulent state subsidies. At its peak operational capacity, the Meridian Eclipse network could move an estimated 6 tons of narcotics per week across the western United States without triggering a single federal alert. Shipping manifests were altered by compromised port officials in Long Beach. Way stations were deactivated by state employees on Caldwell's payroll. Migrant smuggling operations were run alongside drug shipments, using human cargo as a distraction to draw border resources away from the primary narcotics corridors. And buried in the deepest layer of the encrypted files, investigators found a document titled Permanent Infrastructure Plan. It was Caldwell's masterwork, a 30-year strategy to embed cartel influence so deeply into Arizona's political, judicial, and law enforcement systems that it would become functionally impossible to remove without dismantling the state government entirely. Judicial appointments selected for loyalty. Legislative candidates funded through untraceable PACs. Law enforcement leadership chosen from a vetted pool of compromised officers. The plan was not to infiltrate Arizona. The plan was to become Arizona. One intelligence analyst, reading the document for the first time, typed a single line into her report. This state was not infiltrated. It was being redesigned for a cartel future. Governor Raymond Caldwell was arrested at 6:48 a.m. on a Thursday morning at his private residence outside Sedona. He was still in his pajamas. He said nothing. He asked for his attorney. He was escorted to a waiting federal vehicle and driven to a secure facility. The charges would eventually span 47 counts, including racketeering, conspiracy to distribute narcotics, money laundering, human trafficking facilitation, and treason-adjacent violations under federal statutes that had rarely been invoked outside of espionage cases. So what does this story mean? What does it tell us about the country we live in and the systems we trust to protect us? It tells us that power does not always announce itself with violence. Sometimes it arrives in a pressed suit, with a handshake and a campaign promise. Sometimes it needs nothing more than silence and ambition to remake an entire state into a criminal enterprise. The fentanyl that moved through Caldwell's corridors killed people. Real people. Teenagers who thought they were taking a prescription painkiller. Parents who had struggled with addiction for years and finally encountered a pill laced with enough synthetic poison to stop a heart in minutes. Neighborhoods hollowed out by methamphetamine. Families shattered by heroin. Communities that watched their children vanish into trafficking networks and never understood why the authorities could not seem to stop it. Now they know why. This story is fictional. It is a dramatization inspired by real threats that face communities across the United States every day. But the warning it carries is not fictional. Political infiltration by organized crime is not a movie plot. It is a documented, recurring, and evolving danger. And it thrives in the spaces where citizens stop paying attention. If you are still here, if this story held you to the end, then tap like so more people can see it. Comment the word expose if you believe stories like this need to be dragged into the light. Share it with someone who needs to understand how deep the roots of corruption can grow when no one is watching. Because the wolves do not stop working just because the world goes back to sleep.